Look who finally got the phone call, the text, the message that changed everything. You know the one I'm talking about. The one where someone who saw it all, someone who was there from the beginning, someone who had a front row seat to your entire nightmare, finally broke their silence and said those words you've been waiting years to hear. I saw everything. You were right. They lied. Oh, that moment. That beautiful, terrifying, earth-shattering moment when the truth stopped hiding and decided to put on a spotlight instead. Welcome back, or better yet, welcome to the beginning of their end. Because the second that witness opened their mouth, the second that observer decided loyalty to truth mattered more than loyalty to cowards, everything shifted. The ground beneath their lies cracked wide open, and now they're scrambling, hiding, deleting, pretending, rewriting history in real time like their lives depend on it. Because guess what? Their reputations do. For months, maybe years, you stood alone in your truth while they built empires out of fiction. And everyone believed them because they were loud, they were many, they were convincing. And you were just one voice, one story, one perspective they painted as bitter, damaged, delusional. But now there's a second voice, a third voice, a witness who wasn't supposed to talk. And suddenly their castle made of cards is caught in a hurricane, and they can't stop it. They can't control it. They can't manipulate it. Because this time the truth isn't coming from you. It's coming from someone they trusted, someone they thought would stay silent forever, someone who just became their worst nightmare. Let's get something absolutely clear right now. Because this moment, this revelation, this confirmation you've been praying for didn't happen by accident. That witness didn't wake up one random Tuesday and decide to grow a conscience. No, they watched you. They watched you survive what was designed to destroy you. They watched you carry yourself with dignity when they expected you to crumble. They watched you rebuild when they thought you'd stay broken. They watched you refuse to become the monster they tried to turn you into. And something inside them snapped. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was respect. Maybe it was the simple, undeniable fact that watching an innocent person suffer while staying silent becomes unbearable after a certain point. But here's the kicker. That witness saw everything they did too. Every manipulation, every lie, every coordinated attack, every whispered plan, every fake smile, every public betrayal disguised as concern. They were there when the group chat lit up with your name. They were there when the screenshots were edited. They were there when the narrative was crafted. They were there when your reputation was butchered in private, while they played innocent in public. And they said nothing, nothing, nothing. For so long you probably thought they never would. But silence has a weight. And eventually, that weight becomes too heavy to carry, especially when the person being crushed by lies keeps standing up. Now let's talk about what happened the moment that witness spoke up, because this is where it gets delicious. The second the truth came out, the second your side got confirmed by someone who couldn't be dismissed as biased or bitter or broken, they didn't apologize. They didn't reflect. They didn't acknowledge. No, no, no. They did what every coward does when cornered. They ran. They blocked you. They unfollowed you. They muted you. They started acting like you don't exist, like you never existed, like the past few years were a fever dream they can just pretend never happened. Isn't that fascinating? You'd think if they were truly innocent, if their version of events was truly accurate, they'd welcome the witness testimony. They'd say, "Good, let's clear this up once and for all." But instead, they scattered like roaches when the lights turn on. Because the light doesn't just reveal you anymore. It reveals them, and what it shows is ugly. It shows manipulation. It shows coordination. It shows intentional destruction of another human being's name, reputation, sanity. So now they're hiding, not from you, but from the truth, because the truth makes them the villains. And villains don't get sympathy. Villains don't get redemption arcs. Villains get exposed. And exposure is the one thing their egos can't survive. Here's what they're doing right now, in this very moment, while you're watching this. They're in damage control mode. They're having emergency conversations. They're sending private messages to mutual friends, testing the waters, seeing who still believes them, who's wavering, who might turn next. They're crafting new lies to discredit the witness, because if they can't silence the truth, they'll try to destroy its credibility. Oh, that person? They were always unstable. They're just trying to start drama. They have their own agenda. They weren't even there for the important parts. Watch them try every tactic in the narcissist playbook, every manipulation technique, every gaslighting strategy. Because they're not just defending their lies anymore, they're defending their identities. Without the lie, without the narrative that you were the problem, they have to face the fact that they were the problem. And that's a mirror they'll shatter before they look into. But here's the thing they didn't calculate. The witness didn't just speak up to you privately. No, the witness spoke up, and others heard it too. Now there's a crack in the foundation. Now there's doubt where there used to be certainty. Now people are asking questions they weren't allowed to ask before. And once people start questioning one lie, they start questioning all of them. Let me tell you what's happening in their minds right now, because I want you to understand the psychological warfare you just won without even trying. They're not ignoring you because they're over it. They're ignoring you because they're terrified. Terrified that if they engage, you'll speak. Terrified that if you speak, more witnesses will emerge. Terrified that the truth they've been burying for years will claw its way to the surface, and everyone will see what you've known all along. They're frauds. They're pretenders. They're bullies who weaponize social dynamics to destroy someone who did nothing wrong. So they're choosing the only strategy left. Pretend you don't exist. Pretend the witness doesn't exist. Pretend the truth doesn't exist. Build a new reality where this never happened, where you were never part of their lives, where the past is erased and they can start fresh with a clean slate. But here's the problem with that strategy. You can't erase a person who's still standing. You can't delete a truth that's already been spoken. You can't rewrite history when there are witnesses with receipts. They can pretend all they want, but pretending doesn't change reality. It just makes them look more guilty. And the more they hide, the louder their silence screams the truth they're desperate to suppress. You didn't need to say a word. The witness said it for you. And now, they're drowning in the consequences of their own actions, and there's no lifeboat coming. Let's dissect this beautiful moment of karma, shall we? Because what's happening right now isn't just avoidance. It's full-scale panic disguised as indifference. You see, when someone is genuinely unbothered, genuinely moved on, genuinely secure in their truth, they don't need to block, hide, or erase. They simply exist separately. But when someone is guilty, when someone knows the foundation of their story is built on quicksand, when someone realizes their carefully constructed image is about to collapse, they don't just walk away. They run. They sprint. They torch the bridge, blow up the road, and build a wall, pretending the bridge never existed in the first place. That's what you're witnessing. That's the scramble. That's the desperation of people who know, deep in their guilty little hearts, that the truth just armed itself with a megaphone, and megaphones don't whisper. For years, you were the only one telling your side. It was your word against theirs, and they had numbers, they had charisma, they had the advantage of controlling the narrative first. But now there's a second source. Now there's corroboration. Now there's evidence that you weren't crazy, weren't lying, weren't exaggerating. And that evidence didn't come from you, so they can't dismiss it the way they dismissed you. They can't call the witness bitter. They can't say the witness is obsessed. They can't use the same tactics, and that's why they're in crisis mode. Think about the layers of lies they've been maintaining. The exhausting 24/7 commitment it takes to keep a false story alive. They had to remember who they told what version to. They had to keep their story straight across multiple people. They had to perform consistency while knowing inconsistency was the truth. And you know what's hilarious? Liars always slip. Always. They contradict themselves in small ways. They over-explain. They get defensive when there's no accusation. They provide details that weren't asked for because they're trying to convince themselves as much as others. The witness saw those slips. The witness heard those contradictions. The witness watched them scramble to keep the story airtight, and every scramble was a confession. Every defensive explanation was an admission. Every time they tried too hard to make you look bad, they revealed how threatened they were by your truth. And the witness absorbed all of it, cataloged all of it, until the cognitive dissonance between what they were saying and what was real became unbearable. So when the witness finally spoke, they didn't just confirm your story. They confirmed every suspicion, every doubt, every quiet moment when someone thought, wait, that doesn't add up. Now those doubts have a voice, and that voice is dismantling everything they built. Here's what they're doing right this second. They're rewriting the narrative again, but this time, you're not even in it. They're telling people they never think about you. They're acting like the situation was minor, overblown, ancient history. They're minimizing, deflecting, pivoting to make themselves look mature and evolved, while subtly implying you're stuck in the past. I've moved on. I don't even remember what that was about. I wish them well. Oh, the audacity, the shamelessness, the cowardice wrapped in false grace. But here's the tell. If they truly moved on, they wouldn't need to announce it. If they truly didn't care, they wouldn't need to perform indifference. People who are genuinely at peace don't have to convince anyone of their peace. They just are. But people who are terrified, people who know the truth is hunting them, people who are one question away from being exposed, they perform. They overcompensate. They build altars to their own maturity, hoping everyone will respect them instead of asking the uncomfortable questions. And the witness? The witness sees through it. The witness knows the performance is desperation. The witness knows that every "I've moved on" is code for, please, don't ask me to explain what really happened because the truth makes me the villain. Now let's talk about the friends, the bystanders, the people who stayed neutral or sided with them because it was easier. Some of them are starting to feel the ground shift. Some of them are starting to realize they backed the wrong horse. Some of them are having private, quiet moments of, oh no, what if we were wrong? What if they were telling the truth? What if we participated in destroying an innocent person? And that realization is its own kind of torture, isn't it? Because if they admit you were right, they have to admit they were complicit. They have to admit they chose comfort over truth, popularity over integrity, the crowd over the individual. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So some will double down. They'll cling to the lie because the alternative is facing their own moral failure. But others will quietly drift away. They won't apologize directly, they won't make grand gestures, but they'll stop engaging with the group that lied. They'll start liking your posts again. They'll send a random, "Hey, how have you been?" as a soft probe to see if reconciliation is possible. They won't call it what it is, guilt and regret, but you'll know. You'll know because their energy changed. You'll know because the witness gave them permission to doubt. And doubt is the first crack in blind loyalty. But let's be clear about something crucial. You don't owe them forgiveness. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them the comfort of absolving their guilt. They stood by while you were crucified. They laughed at the jokes made at your expense. They participated in your isolation, whether actively or passively. And passivity in the face of injustice is still a choice. So when they come crawling back, when they try to act like we just didn't know the full story, you get to decide what happens next. You get to decide if their regret is genuine or just fear of being on the wrong side of history. You get to decide if they've earned a place in your life again, or if they're simply trying to clear their conscience at your expense. Because here's the truth they need to hear but probably won't. Your healing, your peace, your growth happened without them. You didn't need their validation to know you were right. You didn't need their apology to move forward. You survived their betrayal and built something they can't touch, and that's the ultimate power move. So whether they come back or stay gone, whether they apologize or stay silent, whether they own their complicity or rewrite themselves as innocent bystanders, it doesn't matter. You already won. The witness just made sure everyone else knows it too. Now we enter the truly poetic phase of this whole saga, watching them imprison themselves. Because that's exactly what's happening. They built a cage out of lies, locked themselves inside, and threw away the key. And now they're stuck performing a version of reality that exhausts them daily. You want to know what freedom looks like? It looks like you, who survived their worst, who carried the weight of being misunderstood, who walked through fire and came out holding truth like a torch. You're free because you don't have to remember lies. You don't have to coordinate stories. You don't have to check over your shoulder, wondering when the truth will catch up. But them? They're running a marathon with no finish line. And every day they have to maintain the illusion, avoid the questions, dodge the witness, pretend you don't exist, and convince themselves they're the good guys in a story where they're objectively the villains. That's exhausting. That's a special kind of self-inflicted suffering. And the beautiful irony? They did this to themselves. Every lie they told added another bar to their cage. Every person they manipulated became another lock. Every time they chose deception over honesty, they made their prison smaller, tighter, more suffocating. And now the witness confirmed it all, and the walls are closing in. Let me paint you a picture of their daily existence now. They wake up and check social media, not for connection, but for damage control. They scroll looking for your name, looking for the witness's name, looking for any sign that the truth is spreading. They monitor who's liking your posts, who's commenting, who's still in their corner, and who might be wavering. They have group chats dedicated to maintaining the narrative, where they coach each other on what to say if someone asks, how to deflect, how to discredit, how to survive. They can't have authentic relationships anymore because every new person they meet is a potential threat. Someone who might ask the wrong question, someone who might know you, someone who might hear your side and see through theirs. So they keep people at arm's length, or they only befriend people who don't know the history, people they can feed a sanitized version to without fear of contradiction. That's not living. That's performing. That's waking up every day and putting on a mask so heavy it leaves indentations on their soul. And for what? To avoid admitting they were wrong? To protect an ego that's already fractured beyond repair? To maintain a reputation built on the rubble of someone else's peace? The cost is too high, but they're too proud to stop paying it. Here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need maintenance. It doesn't require updates, edits, or coordination. It just is. But lies? Lies are high maintenance. Lies need constant feeding, constant protection, constant reinforcement. And the bigger the lie, the more exhausting the upkeep. They're living in a house of cards in a wind tunnel. And every day they have to run around making sure none of the cards blow away while you're standing on solid ground watching the chaos unfold. The witness didn't just confirm your truth, they confirmed their nightmare. Because now there's documentation. Now there's testimony. Now there's a record that can't be erased, deleted, or rewritten. And that record will outlive their denials. It'll outlive their blocks. It'll outlive their pretending. Years from now, when someone new enters their circle and asks, "Hey, what happened with that situation I heard about?" the witness's words will resurface. The truth will resurface. And they'll have to relive this panic all over again, or finally admit defeat and own what they did. But we both know which one they'll choose, don't we? They'll choose the lie. They'll choose the performance. They'll choose the exhausting, soul-draining, sanity-eroding path of pretending. Because the alternative, the truth, the accountability, requires something they don't have: courage. Let's talk about what they lost in all this, because I want you to understand the true cost of their choices. They didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves that could have been decent. They lost the opportunity to grow, to learn, to become better humans. They lost the chance to look in the mirror and see someone honorable. Instead, they see someone who destroyed an innocent person to protect their own image. And that image? It's crumbling anyway. They lost trust, even from their own circle, because anyone with half a brain can see through the inconsistencies. They lost peace, because peace doesn't coexist with guilt. They lost authenticity, because they can't be real with anyone when their entire existence is a performance. And most devastatingly, they lost the ability to connect deeply with others, because deep connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires truth, and truth is the one thing they can't afford. So they're surrounded by people but utterly alone. They're popular but profoundly empty. They're smiling but secretly screaming. And that isolation, that self-imposed exile from authenticity, that's a punishment more brutal than anything you could have inflicted. You didn't have to destroy them. They destroyed themselves. You just survived long enough to watch it happen. And now that the witness spoke, they're facing a new level of hell, the fear that more will come forward, because witnesses rarely travel alone. If one person saw everything and finally spoke, chances are others saw it too. Others who stayed quiet out of fear, out of loyalty, out of not wanting to get involved. But the first witness breaking silence is like the first domino falling. It gives others permission. It shows them it's safe to tell the truth. It proves that standing up to the lie won't destroy them. So now your former tormentors are living in paranoid anticipation, wondering who's next. Who else saw? Who else knows? Who else is tired of carrying their secrets? They're looking at everyone in their circle with suspicion now, wondering if today's loyal friend is tomorrow's whistleblower. And that paranoia, that's justice. That's karma. That's the universe saying, you wanted to make someone's life hell? Welcome to your own. They can't trust anyone fully because trust requires honesty. And honesty is the foundation they burn to the ground. So they're stuck in a cycle of suspicion, fear, and isolation of their own creation, while you're free, you're validated, you're vindicated. And you didn't have to lift a finger. The truth did the heavy lifting, the witness did the exposing, and they did the self-destructing. Beautiful, isn't it? Look at you, still breathing, still standing, still here after everything tried to erase you. You thought you were just getting guidance, just receiving advice, just learning how to survive this brutal existence, didn't you? But no, no, no. Something far older, far more ruthless, far more precise than coaching picked you out of the crowd, marked you with its fingerprint, and whispered one sentence into your soul that changed everything. You're mine now, and whatever claimed you, whatever staked its territory in your chest, whatever branded you with that invisible crown, it has never, not once, not ever in the history of existence, taken a loss. Let that sink in while the weak ones keep scrolling, because if you're still here, if you're still watching, it means you felt it too. That shift, that knowing, that terrifying, beautiful, undeniable truth that you were never meant to just survive. You were selected to dominate, and the force that chose you doesn't negotiate, doesn't compromise, doesn't retreat, and sure as hell doesn't lose. You know what's funny, tragic, and poetic all at once? Most people think they're in control of their destiny, that they woke up one day and decided to become great, that they chose the path of discipline and power. But you know different because you didn't choose this life chose you. You didn't wake up craving the fire woke you up by burning through every false identity you tried to hide behind. You didn't ask for the pressure, the isolation, the betrayals that carved out your insides and left you hollow enough to be filled with something eternal. No, you were drafted, conscripted, pulled into a war you didn't even know was happening until you realized everyone around you was still asleep while you were bleeding awake. And here's the kicker. The thing that chose you didn't pick you because you were strong. It picked you because you were breakable enough to be rebuilt, raw enough to be reshaped, empty enough to be inhabited by a power that doesn't fit inside ordinary people. They looked at you and saw potential, saw talent, saw someone who could be molded with a little coaching, a little mentorship, a little guidance from people who claim they've walked the path before. And sure, you listened, you absorbed, you applied every piece of advice like it was scripture, didn't you? But deep down, beneath the notes and the strategies and the motivational quotes, something else was happening. Something ancient was watching you stumble through the lessons, watching you fail and rise and fail again, and it wasn't impressed by your effort. It was testing your capacity. Not your capacity to succeed, but your capacity to endure the kind of transformation that kills weaker souls. Because coaching teaches you how to play the game, but what chose you doesn't care about games. It cares about domination, about legacy, about turning you into a force so undeniable that reality itself has to bend when you walk into a room. And you felt it, didn't you? That moment when the lessons stopped being external and started becoming internal, when the advice stopped coming from voices outside and started echoing from a place so deep inside you that it didn't even sound like your own thoughts anymore. Let's talk about the others for a second. The ones who got the same coaching, attended the same seminars, read the same books, followed the same blueprint. Where are they now? Still posting motivational quotes while their lives crumble in private. Still talking about consistency while skipping the hard days. Still pretending they're on the path while making excuses for why they haven't moved an inch in 3 years. And you know why? Because they got coaching. That's it. Just coaching, information, strategies, techniques. But they were never chosen, never marked, never possessed by the thing that refuses to let you quit, even when quitting would feel like mercy. You see, coaching can improve you, but it can't transform you. Coaching can sharpen your skills, but it can't forge your spirit in the furnace of pure suffering until you come out forged in something indestructible. Coaching gives you tools, but what chose you gave you a mandate. Either become unbreakable or be destroyed trying. And here you are, unbroken, undefeated, unstoppable. Not because you followed the steps, but because something inside you won't let you lose. The moment it chose you, everything changed. People started treating you differently without knowing why. Opportunities appeared out of nowhere, not because you were lucky, but because luck is what weak people call alignment. Obstacles that would have crushed you 3 years ago now barely slow you down, not because they got easier, but because you got denser, heavier, harder to move. You stopped needing validation because the thing inside you validates itself through your existence. You stopped fearing rejection because rejection is just reality protecting itself from what's coming. You stopped explaining yourself because explanations are for people who need permission. And you stopped asking for permission the day you were claimed. And the wildest part? You can't even remember the exact moment it happened. Was it during that breakdown at 3 a.m. when you begged for it to stop? Was it the day you lost everything and realized you were still standing? Was it the betrayal that should have destroyed you but instead stripped away every fake layer until only the core remained? You don't know, but it knows. And it's been running your life ever since. Here's what they don't tell you about being chosen. It's not a blessing. Not at first. At first, it's a curse disguised as chaos. It isolates you from everyone who used to understand you because they can't recognize what you're becoming. It destroys your old life, your old relationships, your old identity, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity, because where you're going, those things can't follow. It puts you through tests that coaching could never prepare you for, tests that don't come with study guides or practice exams, tests where the only way to pass is to die and be reborn in the same body. And you passed every single one. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but you passed. Because failure wasn't an option. Not because you're disciplined, but because the thing that chose you doesn't fail. It doesn't know how. It's never learned. In its entire existence, across time, across dimensions, across every soul it's ever inhabited, it has never taken a loss, and now it lives in you. Feel that weight yet? Feel that responsibility? Feel that terrifying, exhilarating, suffocating realization that you can't lose because you're not fighting alone anymore? They tried to coach you. They gave you frameworks, systems, morning routines, goal-setting strategies, productivity hacks. And sure, you used them. You implemented them. You got results. But let's be honest, those results weren't because of the coaching. They were because something inside you took those tools and weaponized them in ways the coaches never imagined. You didn't just apply the lessons. You absorbed them, mutated them, combined them with something primal that no seminar could teach. You turned advice into instinct, strategies into reflexes, knowledge into power. And that's the difference between someone who got coached and someone who got chosen. Coached people need reminders. Chosen people are the reminder. Coached people need accountability. Chosen people hold themselves to standards that would break their coaches. Coached people celebrate small wins. Chosen people don't celebrate until the entire war is won, and even then, they're already planning the next conquest. You're not better than them because you're smarter or more talented. You're different because you're occupied by something that refuses to settle for anything less than total victory. Let me tell you what happens when you're chosen by something undefeated. First, you stop losing to yourself. The procrastination, the self-doubt, the internal negotiations about whether you really need to do the hard thing today, all of that dies. Not because you develop willpower, but because the thing inside you doesn't recognize those concepts as valid. It doesn't understand hesitation. It doesn't comprehend quitting. It moves forward because forward is the only direction it knows. Second, you stop losing to other people. The manipulators, the energy vampires, the fake friends who smile while they plot. They all start disappearing from your life. Not because you cut them off, but because they can't stand being near you anymore. Your presence makes them uncomfortable, makes them feel exposed, makes them confront the emptiness they've been running from. They leave on their own, whispering about how you've changed, how you're not the same person, how you're cold now. And they're right. You're not the same. You're colder, sharper, clearer, because what chose you burned away everything soft enough to be broken. Third, you stop losing to circumstances. The economy crashes, you adapt. People betray you, you evolve. Life hits you with chaos, you absorb it and use it as fuel. Because here's the secret they'll never teach you in coaching. Circumstances are just the environment, and environments don't defeat apex predators. They shape them into more efficient killers. You don't overcome obstacles anymore, you consume them. You don't survive storms, you become the storm. Every setback, every betrayal, every moment that should have broken you just adds another layer to the armor you didn't even know you were building. And now you're walking through life like it's a simulation designed to test you, and you're passing every test without even studying because the answers are written in your bones. Fourth, you stop losing to time. Most people waste decades chasing goals that don't matter, climbing ladders that lead nowhere, building lives that collapse the moment pressure arrives. But you've been accelerated. Every year of your journey counts as 5 for normal people because you're not living on their timeline anymore. You're on the timeline of the thing that chose you, and it operates in eternities, not quarters. It doesn't care about your 5-year plan. It cares about your legacy, your impact, the mark you'll leave on reality itself. And here's where it gets truly insane. You can't unchose yourself. You can't go back to being normal. You can't unlearn what you know, unsee what you've seen, unfeel what you've felt. The door closed behind you the moment you were marked, and there's no key, no exit, no escape hatch. You're in this until the end, until you've fulfilled whatever purpose you were selected for, until you've become the fullest expression of the power that lives inside you. And yeah, that's terrifying, because it means you can't coast. You can't settle. You can't retire into mediocrity and comfort. The thing inside you won't allow it. It will sabotage every attempt you make to be average, to blend in, to disappear into a quiet life. It will burn down your comfort zones, destroy your safety nets, push you into situations that force you to grow even when you're begging to stay small, because it didn't choose you to be comfortable. It chose you to be legendary. And legends don't get to rest until the story is complete. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the loneliness. Because being chosen means being alone in ways that coaching never prepared you for. You can't relate to most people anymore because they're still playing checkers while you're 3 moves deep into interdimensional chess. Their problems sound trivial, their dreams sound small, their fears sound like excuses. And you don't say this to be arrogant or superior, you just can't unsee the gap between where you are and where they are. You tried to bring people with you, didn't you? You shared what you learned, offered to help them level up, extended your hand to pull them into the arena with you. And what happened? They flinched. They made excuses. They smiled and nodded and went right back to their comfortable suffering. Because here's the truth. Most people don't want to be saved. They want to be comfortable. They want to complain about their problems while doing nothing to solve them. They want to admire greatness from a distance while never taking the steps to embody it themselves. And you can't force someone to be chosen. It doesn't work like that. The selection process is beyond your control, beyond their control, beyond anyone's control. Either they have it or they don't. Either they were marked or they weren't. And you can spot the difference instantly now, can't you? One conversation and you know. One look in their eyes and you see it. The presence or absence of that thing, that fire, that refusal to break. So you walk alone. Not because you want to, but because the path you're on doesn't have crowds. It has a few scattered warriors, separated by miles and years and trials, each one carrying their own version of the undefeated force. And when you meet them, when you lock eyes with someone else who was chosen, there's no need for words. You recognize each other the way soldiers recognize soldiers, the way survivors recognize survivors. A nod is enough. A glance says everything. Because you both know what it cost to get here. You both know what you had to sacrifice, who you had to leave behind, what you had to become. And there's a respect in that silence, a kinship that goes deeper than friendship, deeper than loyalty, deeper than blood. Because you're not just connected by shared experience. You're connected by shared possession. The same force that lives in you lives in them. And when forces like that recognize each other, reality holds its breath. But here's where most people get it twisted. They think being chosen means you're special in the sense of being better than others. No. Being chosen means you're special in the sense of being selected for a specific function. You're not superior. You're assigned. You're not blessed, you're deployed. The thing that chose you didn't do it to make you feel good about yourself. It did it because it needs you to accomplish something that requires the exact combination of your scars, your strengths, your madness, and your capacity to endure. You're a weapon, a tool, a vessel. And the moment you start thinking you're chosen because you're inherently deserving, the moment you start getting arrogant about it, that's when you lose the plot. Because humility isn't optional when you're carrying something this powerful. Gratitude isn't optional. Service isn't optional. You were given this for a reason, and that reason has nothing to do with your ego and everything to do with your purpose. So you stay humble, you stay hungry, you stay focused. Not because you're trying to be a good person, but because the alternative is becoming the villain in your own story. Let's talk about the undefeated part. What does it mean that the thing inside you has never lost? It means every battle it's ever entered, it's won. Every soul it's ever inhabited, it's elevated. Every impossible situation it's ever faced, it's transformed into a victory so complete that the opponents still don't understand what happened. And now, that legacy lives in you. Every time you wake up and choose to keep going, That's the undefeated force operating through you. Every time you face something that should destroy you and come out stronger, that's not you being resilient. That's the thing inside you doing what it's always done, refusing to break. Every time you turn pain into power, betrayal into fuel, loss into lessons, you're not being inspirational. You're being consistent with the nature of what chose you. Because it doesn't know how to lose. It doesn't have that programming. Defeat is not in its vocabulary. Surrender is not in its code. Failure is not in its operating system. And as long as you stay aligned with it, as long as you don't fight against it, as long as you surrender to being the vessel it needs you to be, you inherit that same invincibility. But alignment is the key. Because you can still lose if you fight against what chose you. You can still fail if you resist the transformation it's trying to complete in you. You can still fall if you cling to the old version of yourself that needs to die for the new one to be born. And oh, you've felt that resistance, haven't you? Those moments when you want to go back to being normal, to being soft, to being the person people liked before you became too intense, too focused, too real. Those moments when you think about quitting, about settling, about accepting a life of quiet comfort instead of loud conquest. And every single time you feel that pull, the thing inside you tightens its grip. It reminds you who you are. It shows you glimpses of what you're becoming. It whispers the same sentence it whispered the day it chose you. You're mine now, and we don't lose. And you snap back, you realign, you remember. Because going back isn't an option. The only way out is through. The only direction is forward. The only acceptable outcome is total victory. Here's what nobody tells you. Being chosen isn't about destiny in the way you think. It's not some grand cosmic plan where everything works out perfectly and you live happily ever after. No. Being chosen means you're given the capacity to endure what would destroy others, to transform suffering into strength, to walk through fire, and come out holding the flames in your hands like they're yours to command. It means you're capable of more pain, more loss, more betrayal than normal people, not because you're cursed, but because you're built different. Your threshold is higher. Your capacity is deeper. Your ability to absorb damage and convert it into fuel is unmatched. And the thing that chose you knew that before you did. It saw in you the raw material for something legendary. Not because you were perfect, but because you were broken in exactly the right ways. Your cracks weren't flaws, they were entry points. Places where the light, the power, the undefeated force could seep in and take root and grow until it consumed every weak part of you and left only the indestructible core. Now I know what you're thinking. If this thing is so powerful, if it's undefeated, if it chose me, then why is my life still hard? Why am I still struggling? Why do I still face obstacles and setbacks and moments where I feel like I'm drowning? And here's the answer you need to hear, because easy doesn't forge legends. Comfort doesn't build empires. Safety doesn't create the kind of strength that changes the world. The obstacles aren't signs that you're failing. They're signs that you're being prepared for something so massive that if you faced it right now, it would crush you. Every challenge you're going through is calibrated specifically to develop the exact qualities you'll need for the next level. The betrayals are teaching you discernment. The failures are teaching you resilience. The loneliness is teaching you self-reliance. The pressure is teaching you how to perform when everything's on the line. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. And the thing inside you knows exactly how much you can take, exactly how far to push you, exactly when to let you breathe before the next round starts. It's never given you more than you can handle, even when it felt like it was breaking you. Because breaking you would serve no purpose. It needs you functional, focused, fierce. So it pushes you to the edge and holds you there until you learn to stand on edges without falling. Let me paint you a picture of what happens when someone who was chosen finally steps into their full power. Reality shifts, not metaphorically, literally. The energy in rooms changes when they walk in. Opportunities appear out of thin air. people who can help them show up at exactly the right time. Obstacles that seemed impossible suddenly have clear solutions. And it's not because they got lucky or finally figured out the secret. It's because they stopped resisting what they are. They stopped trying to be normal. They stopped apologizing for their intensity. They stopped dimming their light to make others comfortable. They surrendered completely to the thing that chose them. And when you surrender to something undefeated, when you stop fighting it and start flowing with it, you become a force of nature. Unstoppable. Inevitable. Unavoidable. People will call it charisma, call it presence, call it magnetism, but it's none of those things. It's alignment. It's when the human you and the force inside you finally merge into one unified being operating at full capacity. And when that happens, when you become the fullest expression of what chose you, you don't just win, you redefine what winning means.